This is a how-to video on how to write a short constructor response. This video is for a basic response. It will not necessarily get you an A. It will not necessarily get you a B, but it will give you the understanding of what it means to write a short constructor response that has all the elements. It's up to you to learn that, and once you learn that, that's when you can start adding to it and creating a short response that is all your own and may also get you an even better grade. So again, this is the fundamentals, the basic building blocks of a short constructor response. So here we go. This response is based on 11 by Sandra Cisneros. So it's probably going to be different than the one you're working on. But again, this is the basics. If you are watching this video, I assume that means you need a little bit of help, a little refresher on your short constructor responses. And because of that, I highly encourage you to do it like I show you. Your teacher may have a different format than what I'm about to show you. So during your rough draft process, you can do what I'm showing you. And if your teacher makes you change certain things, that's up to you and your teacher. So that being said, let's begin. What I'm talking about format is exactly what I'm going to show you right now. I want you to label your paper: claim, evidence, reasoning. It will help keep you organized, and it will help you understand the components of this type of academic writing. Whether it's called a CER, races, ACE, or a body paragraph, it is the same thing. Okay, so labeling this will help you understand, and once you fully understand, you won't need these labels any longer. The next bit is you're going to put the prompt at the top of your response. If you put the prompt there and you're labeling your paper, you are so much better prepared to do the right thing. Okay, so starting with your claim. Let's not make this more difficult than it needs to be. Your claim is simply changing the prompt into a statement. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, if someone asks you a question, for example, Miss Fields, how was your day? I would, instead of just saying it was good, right? I would say, my day was good, thank you. You're repeating the question and making an academic statement. To give you one more example, if I said, Pedro, how did you get to school today? Pedro would respond by saying, I got to school in a car. He wouldn't just say car. So in academic language is a complete sentence and you're restating the question. So if the question is, how did you get to school? You would restate it by saying, I got to school in a. Okay, now that being said, if your prompt is, how does Rachel show her fear of authority in Sandra Cisneros' story 11, we're going to take part of that statement and we're going to use it in our claim. So the prompt is a question, how, right? We're going to turn it into a statement. So what I did was I highlighted what they're asking us to do. How does Rachel show her fear of authority? And then I've underlined the story and the author, because it always makes you sound really smart when you use the story and the author. Besides making you sound smart, it's just the right way to do it. So your paper is organized and more fluent. So claim, we're turning this into a statement instead of a question. This part is the question. So let's do it. Okay, so I turned that into a statement. So I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm using what the teacher gave me. Rachel shows her fear of authority in Sandra Cisneros' story 11 when she. All right, so now we have to go back and look at what is it asking us? It's asking us how she shows her fear, right? How does she show it? So I'm going to go and make this bolded and underline. What does showing mean? So I have to really determine, what is this prompt asking me? Showing is something a reader can visualize. We could see it, right? In person, it would be something we could see. So how does she show it? So we know from reading the story that she shows it by crying. She shows it when she stutters. Showing is something we can visualize. If she's thinking something, we don't know. If we looked at somebody, you don't know if they're sad, if they're simply thinking with a straight face. But when Rachel stutters, she's showing. So I'm going to go back to my text, and I remember this part right here. That's not, I don't, you're not mine. I finally say in a little voice that was maybe me when I was 4. Now this piece of evidence is interesting because it has a quote within a quote. I'm going to show you how to do that too. Okay, but before I use that, I need to finish my claim. So since my quote that I'm going to use has stuttering, I'm going to use stuttering. Rachel shows her fear of authority in Sandra Cisneros' story 11 when she stutters. And why does she stutter, guys? She stutters because she's afraid. She's afraid of what? Okay, she's afraid of authority. Who's the authority? Her teacher, Mrs. Price. So, to make a complete, excellent claim, Rachel shows her fear of authority in Sandra Cisneros' story 11 when she stutters when confronted by Mrs. Price. Bam, that's our claim. We can move on. So now we're going to take the piece of evidence that uses the word stutter. Let me highlight that so we all know. And again, I encourage you guys to do this. Evidence. I'm going to go and type this, right? So whenever we have a piece of evidence, we have to do 2 quote marks. However, this piece of evidence is a quote that we're actually using. So we're going to replace the 2 quote marks in our quote with 1. So 1 little quote. So you can look close, and it's 3 now, right? I'm going to type. Okay, so now I have the quote in here. And again, you'll notice I have 2 at the beginning and 2 at the end. And then whenever Rachel talks, there's 1 quote mark here and 1 quote mark here. So that's the exact proper way to do it. And this is huge, guys. A lot of you missed this one, and this is a good way to knock your grade down. You have to have this quotation, or the citation. But then also, let's go back. She stutters, and I'm going to highlight this in green because she's stuttering. So that will help you kind of remember to, throughout your statement, let me start that sentence over. Throughout your short constructed response, it needs to match. I don't want you to repeat the words, but your claim needs to match your evidence, needs to match your reasoning. So the green is our claim matching our evidence. Okay, so let's go back down to reasoning now. So let's talk about this. Why is she stuttering? Why does it matter that she's afraid of Mrs. Price? Why are we talking about this? She's showing her fear of authority, right? So when somebody stutters, what I want you to do is I want you to think about yourself, not just about the stuttering, sorry. When you're using reasoning, think about yourself. In class, we like to talk about see, think, wonder. I wonder what Rachel was feeling in that moment. So think about it. She's faced with an authority figure. Rachel has literally no say. She cannot tell the teacher no when the teacher tells her to put the sweater on, no matter how much she wants to. She cannot. Maybe you feel differently, but let's put ourselves in Rachel's shoes. She doesn't want to get in trouble. She's super nervous. So explain those emotions. So if you want to do this on your own, go for it. You could pause the video right now and think about it for a minute. I think that's a great idea. And then come back when you're ready. So what I said here is Rachel's so frightened of Mrs. Price's authority that she cannot speak in a complete sentence. I'm going to put this together because, again, we're trying to match. So this is about stuttering, right? So she's so afraid on the inside she can't speak in a complete sentence. That matches the stuttering, and it matches the word stutter. But again, I didn't say it in the same way, right? Now, Miss Fields is always going to say, dig deeper. Why? Why does that matter? So sit there and think about it for a minute. Put me on pause and then come back. Okay, so this is a little bit deeper reasoning. So she reverts to a tiny voice that reminds her of a child because she feels powerless. What I did here was I took another part of that quote, right? Maybe me when I was 4, and a little voice. So a little voice, let's go to green, and then powerless, let's go to green. Because these are all this is me going back to my quote and making sure I'm bulking myself up, right? So let's put these pieces together. What I want you to do is put it together so it looks like a legitimate CER, right? So this will make you look like a professional. Now we have it in a tidy paragraph. And as I told you before, this may not get you an A. It may not get you B. We have to look at it a bit more closely. But it for sure will get you a passing grade on a CER. And your teacher will know that you understand what a short constructive response is. Can it be better? Absolutely. I've told you before that writing is never finished. But this is an excellent start. So let's read it together. Rachel shows her fear of authority in Sandra Cisneros' story 11 when she stutters when confronted by Mrs. Price. That's not, I don't, you're not mine. I finally say in a little voice that was maybe me when I was 4. Cisneros 84. Rachel is so frightened of Mrs. Price's authority that she cannot speak in complete sentence. She reverts to a tiny voice that reminds her of a child because she feels powerless. Actually, that's pretty good. So I'd say that might even get a B. All right. There's one thing missing that we didn't do yet. When you have evidence, you always want to lead into it with something. So you guys may remember when teachers tell you, like, in the text it says, we could be a little bit more zhuzhy about this. Let's be a little bit more clever. So Rachel shows her fear of authority when she stutters when confronted by Miss Price. She is forced to speak up and say, so this is a little bit more natural. If you would like to do in the story, she says, Cisneros writes. You may also look at the sentence frames that I provided, but I really like natural ways to lead in. That's up to you. For now, I want you to understand the basics. So if you say in the story it says, that is totally fine. And then as you grow, you can replace it with more natural things. So let's read that one more time. Rachel shows her fear of authority in Sandra Cisneros' story 11 when she stutters when confronted by Mrs. Price. She is forced to speak up and say, that's not, I don't, you're not mine. I finally say in a little voice that was maybe me when I was 4, Cisneros 84. Rachel so frightened of Mrs. Price's authority that she cannot speak in complete sentence. She reverts to a tiny voice that reminds her of a child because she feels powerless. Now, that is a good short constructor response. It's actually a really good one. I want you to remember this method, though. Let's go back and recap. Number 1, you're going to label your paper. You want your prompt up here, your claim, your evidence, and your reasoning. Label it out. Number 2, let's highlight our prompt. You want, what is the teacher asking you to do? What's the action word? And then remember to underline your story, your article, whatever. All right. And then you're just turning this prompt into a statement. Don't overthink it. Don't try to be cute with this. Just try to get it done so that you can build from there, right? So in this case, we just literally took this prompt and turned it into a statement and added our reasoning, right? So like we made it into a statement and we answered the question. How does she show? She shows when she stutters. Okay. Then our evidence, it matches. So this is the next thing. You want your claim, your evidence, and your reasoning to have components that are similar all the way through. That is when you're going to nail that response. I hope this has been helpful. Please, if it's starting to make sense, but you're still not quite there, watch it again and pause it. And I would suggest maybe writing it as you go along until you understand the structure, because any short constructor response you do is going to be the same. You may not get it right away. So do this highlighting, do the underlining. If you do the work, I promise you it will get easier until the time you're able to write one of these in 5 minutes. And I promise you it will happen. All right. I hope that helped.